Hello everybody, today we are going to continue my review of Dawntrail. This is going to be probably the most chill, relaxed video probably in the whole review. Honestly, there's a level where I could see people saying why are we covering this, but for me, at least, I feel that part of the expansion is the joy of exploring, the joy of seeing something fresh and something new. Probably some of the highest highs I've had is walking into a zone, hearing new music, and seeing something that's completely different from what I've seen before. So today we are hopefully going to be able to go through all of the zones in Dawntrail and review what they look like, just talk about things that stood out to me as I walk through these zones, and we'll listen to music and we'll talk about zones that I loved, zones that I didn't like as much, and just point out various improvements or whatever along the way. So sit back, kick up your feet, put me on the second monitor while you're grinding your life away somewhere, because today, hopefully with minimal errors, I will be able to explore Dawntrail zones. And since I'm recording this on OBS, the sound's going to be a little different, yeah, there might be some hard cuts if I fuck up, which I probably will. All right, well, let's get going. So the first thing we're going to look at is the city of Tyrol, which is, well, not the city of Tyrol, I should say the city Tuliolol, which is basically the capital, if you will, of Tyrol. And this is basically what you're going to see when you first come in. And yeah, it's pretty cool, honestly. When I first zoned in here, I was really struck by how they were very, very, very specifically trying to give a fantasy riff on ancient South American civilizations. And you can see it in the boat structures. You can see it just everywhere with the stonework and the patterns. And we'll get into more of that later. Now, I'm not an expert of ancient civilization in South America. I'm just a hobbyist documentary watcher. But generally speaking, when I came in here, I instantly knew that we were in the fantasy version of essentially South America, and I thought that was pretty nifty. I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty excited. Now, let's get started by not looking at my capo anymore. And we're gonna actually, oh yikes. Okay, sorry everyone. I hope you guys don't get sick watching this, but right here we are going to take a look at these things right here. You see these little reed boats. These reed boats, I think they're trying to recreate the reed boats that are known to have been created by certain South American people groups. These boats are said to have been able to weather quite, dangerous weather conditions, and that they might have actually been ocean going as well. So this is actually a pretty interesting recreation of a legitimate skill or craft that the ancient civilizations of South America were able to perpetuate for millennia, I suppose. I'm not sure how far back they go. It could only be hundreds of years, but I just love these little details because it really shows their dedication to just putting in some fairly realistic and lived-in details that make this whole scene look more interesting. Now, if we pull back out here, we can see that there's different boats pulled up at the harbor, which gives the whole area a much more lived-in feel. And in fact, as we go along, you can see that they've put more things everywhere. Like, just everywhere. There's just stuff piled that feels like, is this corn? This looks like corn. Don't look too close at it because then it might start looking like the grapes, but corn and maybe coffee beans. So as you can see, just so much objects, so many objects just piled around here, making this whole space feel really lived in. And I just really love that feeling, that sense that this is a culture that's actually doing stuff. And honestly, these textures, I don't know, maybe I'm just coping, but I think all of this just looks really solid, really nice. And of course, when it rains, it gets that slick feel, that look of being completely wet, you know? Really, really nice. I know that there's a couple jumping puzzles in this area, but I'm not sure where one of them is. I know where the larger one is, but I'm not sure where the other one is. So usually people will go straight up to the aetheryte. So as you can see here, we have the aetheryte, and honestly, this whole place just looks so gorgeous. The canopies that are stretching over with the hanging lights, just really beautiful. I hate warm colors. I think red and orange and yellow are just gross to me, but I'm going to be frank, this feels like it's on brand for this type of culture. And it's really, really nice to see how they did try to fill out these walking areas with more stuff, which I really appreciate. And even up here, if we take a quick look at the aetheryte up here, we can see that they added and embellished really on this aetheryte, so that not only is the crystal looking extra crystally, you know, we also have the stone with the metalwork that's actually glinting. It looks like stone, it looks like metal. That's the graphics update, you know, right there, working extra hard to make this aetheryte just look really, really solid. Honestly, I'm not a super fan of the city Tuliolol, but if you look at the details, at the greenery, at the moss on the rocks, it feels very realistic for what it's supposed to be. And I've spent a lot of time here crafting, and so one of the key things when you're spending a lot of time in the zone is, are you going to go crazy from, you know, being in the zone? And I feel like this zone doesn't drive me as crazy as some other zones do. Yomar. So I don't know, I just think this is really nice. Like, I'd want to come here and, you know, try some of these things out here. Like, what is this whitish drink, do you think? I don't know. I just like the little touches. Clearly this is some sort of pub or tavern. I've actually never... What is up here? Just an area. Wow. Okay. So once again, like, will something happen up here if you do side quests or anything? I don't know. I also didn't realize that you could hop on that. Is there like a jumping puzzle? Anyway, so then on this side of the city we have the taco bar with the shish kebab, I guess, and all of that stuff. Very nice. And then, like I said, more port stuff, more busy looking, you know, more spacious but yet busy looking, filled in streets and ports and piers and docks and things like that. Now this whole area here is where you go to do your special deliveries, kind of like the crystalline mean in Redacted. I don't know why I'm saying Redacted for Shadowbringers Crystarium, because you all should know. But yeah, I've done actually a lot of work in here. Done quite a bit of work in here. Just a few that I haven't finished. Probably my favorite story, which I'll talk about another time, is this story here with the Bum Boys. Breath of fresh air is what I say. But genuinely, great place. I just love how upbeat, how filled in, how lived in, how graphically, you know, beautiful this whole area is. And honestly, at the, you know, a lot of people might not feel like this is their favorite spot. I totally get that. It's not my favorite spot either, but I do think that it was done really, really well. Probably, I guess I would say that some of my favorite parts of this zone aren't really even like the major areas like here. Let's see if I can, let's see. So there is, first off, this is where I usually stand, like where I've been trapped for ages doing crafting in this area specifically. But let's visit just a couple more areas and then we'll move on to the next zone. But so one of the most beautiful sections, I would say, is this whole beach area with the rocks and the water. It's just really, really, really pretty. Yeah, just look at that. And of course you have these like houses that are out on the water, and they don't let you see it. I don't think you can go in. Yeah, you can't go in here. But if you go in and get the innkeeper to put you in one of these inns, it's just really beautiful. Like, it's genuinely a gorgeous place. I hate beaches, generally speaking. I'm not super into like hanging out on a beach in the sun because I burn up like a potato crisp. It's not very fun. But I've visited Bali, like in Indonesia. I've visited Malaysia. I've visited so many different places around the world. In Thailand, Sri Lanka. I've spent a lot of time around the world visiting various beach places for work largely, but you have this, for example, just really gorgeous. Could you imagine coming to a place like this in real life? Honestly, just it's really, really beautiful. And like I said, I'm not a beach gal. I'm not super into sand or jungle, really, if I'm going to be frank. But I could see why people would want to come and be in this place if this place existed IRL. Like, I could see why you would want to come and stay here. Just imagine actually being in this wonderful space. Honestly, just really, really beautifully done with all the fruit. All of these just little touches to fill in the room and make it feel more, you know, fun to be in. So this is one cool area that I really like. I really love the inn in here. Am I a super fan of, like I said, the beach? Meh. But am I definitely saying that this is gorgeous and beautiful? I mean, yeah. I mean, just listen to that. And if I pull up the control panel, I mean, the ambient sounds are really nice. Yeah, it's very calming. Now, if we go to the last place, let's go up to Volok Shunsa. So there's a couple parts that I want to point out here. So the first part that I want to point out is, if you don't know, there's a jumping puzzle that starts over there in that corner and goes up. So good luck with that. Then we have this, which is crazy. I don't know if my GPU and RAM are doing this justice, but it's just really, really phenomenal, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. It's it's an area where you will often go in to see the Dawn Servant. And I don't even think you can go beyond this part. Yeah, you can't go beyond this part. But just the breadth and the scale of this place, mind-boggling. And I love the detailing of the stone versus the metal versus the brick versus the different brick versus the big brick. This is very typical of what we would call borrowed monuments in real world situations. And it just feels like you have centuries upon centuries of different cultures kind of building on this to make it happen. Or maybe it was all built at once, maybe. I'm not 100% certain on the lore, but it's really, really... Oh, hello. What have we here? A Capaway, caught off his guard. Hello, Koana. Koana's turning into a doting uncle. That's funny. Okay. Well, anyway. So actually, I just realized that I could maybe even turn off my hot bars. Because... why not? It's not like I'm going to be taking... Of course, if I get attacked in my journeys, your host may end up dead, but let's just... I don't know. I just think that the view from here is like, you could see why someone would want to build it here. Holy moly. I'd knock down these walls though. I mean, I understand that you want to have defensive position, but the walls are blocking the view. Is that too bougie to say? Anyway, so... Oh gosh. I'm sorry, everybody. Oh, that was bad. Oh, that made me feel ill. I'm not going to do that again. Anyway, so let's keep going. And the final thing I wanted to show and talk about is this area right here where some cutscenes happen. And obviously, oh, Galulja, what is he doing? No wasted movement, become one with the blade. Okay, that's cute. He can't wait to spar with us. Okay, well. All right, that's nice. Okay, so let's just stand here for a second and home it again. Okay, so just want to talk a little bit about what we see from here and then talk about the city as a whole before moving on. So all in all, I think this is just really gorgeous to look at. The skybox is so beautiful. And then we have this wonderful horizon with the sea, all of these outer ports and inner ports, the rocks, and then the city below. I mean, it's just beautiful. It really is. Of course, you could say, oh, it should be this way. And I agree. I agree. It's important that we hold people to standards as consumers because we are giving them our money. But I think sometimes we can get so comfortable in a place and then completely miss out on what makes it so special and so unique and so different. And we literally become so focused on getting stuff done, we don't stop to smell the roses, literally and metaphorically speaking. And so if we just look over on, at this world presented to us from up here, you can absolutely see how gorgeous this whole setup is, how beautiful it is. It's a place that I wouldn't want to live in Tuliolol, because like I said, I can't handle heat, but I would absolutely come here for a vacation. And I feel like what the staff did with the vibe of the place, With the music, they really wanted to create this sense of we're on a vacation. This is the most relaxing place in the world that you could ever want to be. And I do think to a certain degree they were, correct. They were correct. Now, let's take a little look here at the music. So I'm just going to pump up the background music for a second. Well, as we know from the night theme and the day theme of Tuliolol, I have to say that it is really great for the city, in the sense that if you're going to be stuck here crafting for ages and ages on end, and for some reason you don't have YouTube on your second monitor, I don't know what's wrong with you, but anyway, this music is really not that bad for like background constant music. Now, some people, of course, prefer, more pumping music, whatever. But as somebody who has enjoyed her fair share of different types of music, I'm not averse to having like band music or jazz music or smooth jazz or swing or whatever this is. I'll have to ask my sister exactly what she would term this music as, but this is definitely, I would say, definitely one of those cities where you want to go, you want to hang out in it, and it's fine for just sitting and crafting in it. And if you, for some reason, have no music playing and you're just listening to this, it's actually, bearable. I've had completely different feelings with some other games where the music drove me nuts, and Labyrinthos actually comes to mind in Final Fantasy XIV. I think Labyrinthos is one of the ones where most people struggle. That zone, that's a fun zone, isn't it? But yeah, generally speaking, I think this is just a really fun theme song. It really helps convey this idea that we are in this vacation time. Everything is hunky-dory, everything is okay, and we happen to be here in this city. Now, I will say that I was a little bit thrown by the fact that they went with band and smooth jazz, because I don't necessarily equate that to South America, but perhaps my South American friends can weigh in and let me know if this is something that is like, I don't know, Mardi Gras. I have no idea, but overall I think that this is a pretty nice starting zone. I'm actually going to tweak my head one last time because I just realized that, how to say this, I don't have my I'm gonna set it to really small, but I basically just realized I don't have my little control panel available for various reasons. I just completely forgot that I need that out, so I'm going to put it over here because I want my command panel here. So yeah, so this is Tuliolol. Pretty good. If I was going to put it in a tier list, I would actually put it above Limsa. I find that the Limsa music is perhaps at this point in time overplayed. I genuinely prefer the music here over Limsa, for example. But is it better than the Gridania music? No. And is the night music of Ul'dah better than the night music of Tuliolal? Yes. But I would probably put this above Yulmore. I would put it above Limsa. And maybe even the Crystarium Day. Maybe. But in terms of other cities, I will say that I really love Radzat Han, and maybe it's my Bollywood love coming out, but Radzat Han for me is like mega peak, and I am more likely to also enjoy something like Old Charlan and Gridania. But I do love Crystarium, and I do love Crystarium at night. And so this would probably be on the same tier as Crystarium, but not on the same tier as Gridania. Sorry. Okay, so that is Tuliolal. Now, next, for our next part of the story, we're gonna go and enter Kozama Uka. Guys. I am by no means a Kozama Uka fan, but there's something so hummable. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm probably just annoying you all at this point, but there's something so hummable about Kozama Uka. The day theme for Kozama Uka is just really lively. Is it my favorite zone overall? No, but is the music for Kozama Uka just so lively and hummable and chipper, and it makes you want to sit and listen to it, and it actually has me bopping in my seat. My shoulders are doing a little wiggle, you know, my sides are doing a little bit of a wiggle. I don't know. I think this zone is really one of those zones where some people might think, oh yeah, Kozama Uka, that's the place where the bird, you know, where the bird people were, like yada yada. But I don't know. I really loved the music choice for this zone. And if we actually take off all music, I don't know. It's just really beautiful. I think the ambient sounds of this game are completely underrated. They're just really beautiful. So if we go back here, just gonna play, do the volume properly again. So we'll go like that. So let's talk about Kozama Uka. So this is the place where we meet up with the the Hanu, the distant relations of the Vanu. So we got the Hanu here. We have this brown rivered jungle, which I think feels pretty legit. I would never walk in this thing. I'm pretty sure you would die of some sort of illness right away. But I'm not gonna lie, I find all of this really pretty. The little grass in the water, the flow of the water, the dotted little islets here and there. I mean, like, if I could get over my abhorrence of wearing sandals and getting my feet wet, I could see myself like trudging through these little areas, going from island to island, wading in water. But you know, we all know that there would be mosquitoes and leeches and all sorts of nastiness, probably IRL, if this was IRL. But look at these fireflies. Or butterflies, actually. I don't know. It's just so lush, so verdant. This brown, cakey water, way too legit for life. These huge lily pads. Like, it's just really beautiful, honestly. And I think this is one of the reasons why, like, sometimes we get so, I don't know, MSQ focused, gathering focused, you know, goal focused. We forget, like, this scene exists. Like, I don't know. I feel like we should talk about the work that went into making this scene, with the light coming down through the holes in this cavernous cave. It's just so gorgeous, honestly. Waterfall, I don't know, it's just really, really, really nifty. Just really, really, really nifty. Now, of course, we have, I believe Doc Poga is also over here. I believe we have a fair few cities in this particular region. Oh, here are the fields with the special rushes that the Hanu Hanu require for their eating. That's pretty cool. And then what have we got over here? We have a town. Once again, lots of brown looking water. With the town being on stilts, more or less. And I imagine that if it's raining, it would just come in. I don't know. I'm remembering the hotel that we stayed at when we were in Indonesia. And yeah, I'm definitely remembering how open air everything was. And then there was this massive rainstorm, and the rain was gushing everywhere, and I felt fairly miserable. Hello, hello. We have the remains of some wreckage here. I don't know. I also feel like the trees and the foliage and the underbrush just feels a bit more, I don't know, realistic. Does this town have town music? Let's find out. I feel like it should have triggered if I went in here, right? This is where the statue is, where we basically have our local ritual? Is that ceremony? One of those. And then over here, of course, is this is Doc Poga, which is where the actual tribe quest is. The Allied Society quest. Okay, so let's hear the town music for this region. Well, I don't think it's my favorite, to be honest. We'll talk about some other ones that I prefer. It feels a little random. Like, I get that they are trying to go for like more woodwindy, more like chill, because you don't want to be driving people crazy when they come here for their Allied Society quest. But at the same point in time, it's kind of like, it's okay. It's okay. This area, though, so cool. The Punity. And I think I'm still working on getting this tribe quest up. I'm not a super grinder, so I'm pretty... I kind of play the game at my own pace. So I'm probably way behind everybody else. But yeah, this is just a really beautiful zone. It's quite big. I think it has 1, 2, 3, 4 aetherytes in this zone. So they definitely were going all out on this one. They were definitely trying to make it easier for you to get around, while at the same time maintaining this extremely large zone. Now, of course, as everyone here knows, the zone has 2 parts. There is the lower part, which you see first with the Hanu Hanu, and then there's the upper part, which is opened later in the MSQ. This is where we get the forests, where, alas, I learned to spend a lot of time here. And here we have the regular town music. Very chipper, I should say, right? Very, very chipper. Totally suitable. Is it my favorite again? No, I'm gonna be honest. Not my favorite, village zone music, but it's fine. It's fine. Like, some people probably enjoy it. It's just not my cup of tea. And then, of course, over here we have the beautiful. Okay, so let's see if we can get like a really nice view of this. Let's see what happens if I go here. Yeah, maybe I'll have to go on my cat upward. Fly, kitty. Come on, everybody. Like, look at that. The skybox. Look at those clouds. They just look so perfectly fluffy. And then we have all of these waterfalls with the falling from the jagged rocks. My mount is freaking out. Just look at the lily pads and everything. I don't know. I'm not a nature gal. I don't go outside barely. Like, let's all be real here. I'm not going out and touching grass and communing with the trees by any stretch of the imagination. But this is genuinely gorgeous. I'm a huge sucker for flat water. Well, flat water. What kind of description is that? I'm a huge sucker for like shallow water, where you can just put on some sandals and just like splash in the shallows. Maybe avoid those marbles. But just really, really, really beautiful. Not sure how these boats got up here, but I'm pretty sure this is where we do a small quest in this area, I believe. Yeah. So, yeah, this is just such a diverse zone. You got the highs and the lows. You got this area, I believe. I spent a lot of time in here doing some, oh, Lord, it was mining, if I recall correctly. Yeah. Really, really nifty. Really nifty. Oh, yes. And here is the Moblin Town. Down, down, down in Moblin Town. Moblin Town. I love the colors and the smooth textures. And is that... Wait a minute. Is that a... Wait a minute. Hold. Is this jumpable? No. Yes? I don't think it's jumpable. It would be so cool if it was jumpable, though. That'd be cool. Let me know in chat if I'm just sucking and that's actually jumpable. That'd be cool though if it was jumpable. Anyway, so this is this area. Very lovely. And then if I'm correct, we have runes over here. Now, like I said, I'm really into watching documentaries about old civilizations, like ancient ones that we are not sure even existed. And this one, these, if we look really closely, they're trying to simulate what you actually see in Peru. Like, this is crazy work. So I don't know if people know this, but in ancient South America, apparently, they knew how to place together stones that were massive in size, but they weren't using cement. And all the stones, even though they were not cut always the same size and shape, they would interlock so tightly that you can't even get a paper between them. Like, it's so precise in its measurements and how they set the stone up. It's just crazy. And so they're clearly trying to replicate that here at the site with all of these runes and the hieroglyphs on the wall. It's just really cool. I don't know. Like, is it just me? Am I just being a crazy nerd? I don't know. But yeah. Oh, night theme just hopped in. So let's check out the night theme. So relaxing. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy night themes. When I was playing World of Warcraft, I realized very quickly that they don't have day themes, night themes, like they do in Final Fantasy. The day theme, night theme is just so, it's just so beautiful. You just want to hang out, listen, and relax. I think I love most night themes in the game, to be honest. And of course, Kozama Uka is no exception. So that's Kozama Uka. And as you can see here, Kozama Uka has two openings to Tuliolal. But the opening we're going to go for is Urkopacha. So let's fly to Urkopacha and we're going to try out another zone. Okay, let's go into Urkopacha. All right, let's hear the night theme for Urkopacha. Ooh. So this is night theme / town theme for Warlord's Echo. Very nice. Actually like this one. This one is, you can listen to this without wanting to, like, you know, without going crazy. But let's switch to the zone night theme. Now, if I was going to say, which zone do I like better, Kozama Uka or Urkopacha? And as crazy as this sounds, I actually kind of like Urkopacha better. because I'm not a super fan of... Oh, excuse me, everybody. I'm just gonna stop here for a second. All right. Okay. I'll check that out later. But as you can see, this is a pretty... There's some parts of the zone that are, aesthetically speaking, really pretty. But then there's some parts of the zone that are just meh. So, in terms of this rocky area, I'm gonna be frank, it's kind of like meh to me. There's some cool stuff where you can see where Valagarmanda probably torched this land here. And from it are spawning all of these fire-based mobs. So I kind of like all of that. I like this whole fiery, kind of steamy, eternal fire that keeps burning. All of that kind of stuff. Big fan of. That's kind of cool. That it's basically a story in the landscape. Very Elden Ring in that aspect. But overall, I think we can all agree that this is a fairly grim territory. It's it's quite gray with spots of green. These trees are kind of cool. But once again, we're back to the big interlocking stones that are creating these runes. So I like those parts. But overall, I think this upper level of Warlord's Echo is kind of like, I don't know, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. One of the interesting things, though, is if we go down in here, I found this out while I was doing the Allied Society Tribe Quest thing in this area for the Yoke Kui. If we go in here and we push to the end, you can see salt flats. Now, like I said, I don't know much about South America, but I faintly recall something about National Geography talking about salt flats. So, South American folk, once again, in chat, please let me know. But salt flats, I believe, have something to do, like, I think that's a thing over there. But once again, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just talking through my hat here. It's not pretty. It's not pretty, but it's so unique. It really is unique because it reminds me of the white from the Burn or the white from the Amarang. But it's not. It's not the same thing at all. I think these are supposed to be salt flats. So I just find that so fascinating. But anyway, all of these trees, all of these shrubbery, it's just so specific, I think, to certain mountainous regions in South America. Of course, we can't go anywhere without also giving due homage to these beautiful scenes, which if I recall correctly, Jesse Cox found these and was latching onto them as being significant, and he was right. Probably, if we're talking about aesthetics, okay, if we're going to say which one would I choose to have replicated on my wall, I'm probably going to go with this one right here. I'm probably going to go with that one, the purple and the black with the eyes crying. Pretty cool. But this one is also pretty beautiful. Let's all be real. We have like a sun and the clouds and the birds, the city being raised. Just really, really beautiful. Really beautiful artwork. Reminiscent, no doubt, to actual aesthetics that are often, kind of like synonymous with South American art styles. So I like it. I think it's really lovely. And then we have out here if you were like me trying to grind and get to making the relic material, you all probably know this particular harvesting site. We probably all have relic grinding PTSD at this point. But this whole area here is just gorgeous. You can swim in this lake, but I'm going to be frank. The highlight is these beautiful lavender or something plants, flowers. I'm not going to pretend to have a green thumb. I don't know what these are called. But what I will say is that if I was here IRL, I'd probably be dying of ragweed allergies. But you can see here, just really gorgeous. Whatever they are, let me know what they are. Just really beautiful. I don't know. I just think it's such a serene place. I have pictures of my cat boy crouching in amongst these beautiful flowers. It's just a really beautiful area. A beautiful little nook that some people might not always take the time to visit, but it's really worth checking out. And then over the spur here, we have the other side, which is the like Urkopacha proper. This is the upper end of Urkopacha where we actually start. So we're going into, of course, we got up here. We have the slopes with the amazing alpaca on them. I love alpaca. I don't care if they spit in your face and they're smelly and they're gross. I think they look phenomenal. Look at that grass in the wind. Holy moly. When my cat runs through the grass responds to the cat. Or it could be just the wind. I feel like it is responding to my cat as well, though. Anyway, that might be me coping. You let me know. Yeah, just look at this strange tree-like thing. Is this a thing in South America? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's really lovely. Now we have over here the vineyards, which I believe was the site for some MSQ questing. And once again, here we have a village. So just like with the Vanu Vanu, here with the Pelu Pelu, we have the most amazing type of culture here. So let's talk about this. So with the Vanu Vanu, we had basically the platforms on stilts. They seem to be all open air, which had me asking some questions about what happens when rainstorm comes. Are you just going to be wet and miserable? But it seems like they live in like these round nest-like homes. For the Pelu Pelu, is so adorable. Wouldn't you want to go here for a night and just stay? They look so interesting. They have like the rug things on top, kind of like a sushi really, and then like, or sashimi, and they have like such little tiny intricate details of the carvings along the house. I wonder if this will eventually be an housing exterior that we could get, because I just think this is such a beautiful little home. Of course, the Pelu Pelu are shorter people, so their homes would probably be perfect for Lala and Mikote. And as you can see here, they try to add in as much little things here and there to make it look like it's lived in. Like, people come down here and they use this well, and they use the stuff all in and around here. It's just really, like, all of these little... These are people working. Is this their equivalent to like factories? Okay, you know what? We're not going to ask questions about Pelu Pelu employment practices because that might get dangerous. But we have over here a huge cavernous outlook with this mist and just this glimpse of other mountains and all of that mist. It's if you got the night music playing and you're just chilling and looking out over this, it's so, I don't know, the atmosphere is there for me. Gorgeous skybox as usual, just really nice, really nice. Cactuses, and sometimes it snows, which is even crazier. That's probably my favorite, is when I came in it was snowing. These are like massive aloe vera plants. I have no idea. Do they actually, like, could they actually grow this big in real life? I have no idea. It's just so muted in color, right? Everything feels very gray, very matte. But at the same point in time, when the snow starts coming in and then you see all of this scrub with the cactus and everything, it just, I don't know, it feels like I'm in South America, but maybe I'm completely, coping. Okay, so we got back to the chipper village music. And while we're here, we're going to have a little look at just all of these little details. Look at this cute little house. The lantern. Like, would you not want to say that this is my door, this is my lantern? I don't know. Maybe I'm just hard coping here, but I just think it's really beautiful and pretty. And when you come into this zone from Tuliolol, it's such a different feeling and vibe from Tuliolol, right? It's so different. And honestly, that's what's so cool, is you choose between Kozama Uka and Urkopacha, and you go from alpacas. There's the Mofo's golden alpaca. Anyway, you go from basically this kind of muted, but yet still really unique landscape with the snow and the mountains, and then you have all of Kozama Uka with its gorgeous waterfalls and everything. Yeah, it's just so different, and I just really appreciate that about the whole expansion. Is you go from Kozama Uka to Urkopacha, or from Urkopacha to Kozama Uka, and between the two you just get the sense of like, this is a very different kind of world with a very different continent with different climates and biomes. It just feels really great in here. Oh, hello gentlemen. I'm not really into Hrothgar, so sorry, but once again, just let's hear what the ambient sounds like here. Yeah, the ambient sound also changes depending on how your camera is swiveled. Crazy. Yeah. Awesome. Honestly, overall, if I had to choose, I'd say Urkopacha is probably my favorite. I like the night music more. I like the day music. I'm gonna wait for the day music to talk about the day music. But On the other hand, I think about Kozama Uka and the day music, and then I'm suddenly thinking, oh, but I really like that as well. So I don't know. I'm torn. I'm torn at this point. Yeah. So overall, these are the first two zones that we would see, after leaving Tulialal. And overall, I have to say that I like the two zones that they chose to begin with. And I felt very much enchanted when I came to Urkopacha. I made the really good choice of choosing to go to Urkopacha first. Because I feel that overall, the storyline in this zone is much more... it feels a bit slower, doesn't it? Because you're basically scamming people. But generally speaking, setting aside that, there is definitely, I think, a sense that this zone here has more of a slower narrative. So starting here is probably better because it gives the narrative a sense of it slowly climbing up. Whereas Kozama Uka, if you start in Kozama Uka and then go to Urkopacha, you're going to feel like everything has been downgraded a little bit. Oh my goodness. Just look at that. I don't know. I just think it's really, really pretty. The moon with the mountain, just really enchanting. What kind of weather are we having in here? Oh, we got windy weather. Yeah. So cool. So nice. Now we're going to wait here. You'll probably see a hard cut to daytime. But let's check out the daytime music and then move on to the next zone. Okay. So as you can see here, or hear here, this is the daytime music. I don't know. I personally just think it's so pretty. I like the strumming, the harp sound almost behind it. It's just really enchanting. I love the day music for Urkopacha. Is it in my top 5 or my top 10? Probably not. But it's definitely a highlight zone music for daytime. Genuinely enjoyable, genuinely fun to listen to, and honestly fits this whole zone. I don't know. Immensely upbeat, filled with adventure, a perfect way to start. And I'm so glad. I forget whether I chose the Hanu Hanu or the Pelu Pelu first, but I definitely gotta say that I just loved this theme when I heard it. Okay, so that is our first 2 zones. So let's get to the next zone, which is going to be Yaktel, and we're going to start in Ikbrax because that is basically where we come into the zone. So we take an airship, we land in Eekbrax. Now, Eekbrax has a very nice town theme. Genuinely a lovely theme. And if we go up to where we first started, let's begin way up here. This is where we actually begin, at the extremely high, very tall tower for the ship's landing. I guess the idea being that various ships could come at various angles and dock and let people off. I guess that's the idea. So you generally come out here, and this is where you land. So this is pretty cool. This is nice. Okay, feels like okay. And then you begin to realize, oh, this is the zone that Yoshi P used when he was trying to show off the graphical changes that the game had made. And boy howdy, you can see why. It's just genuinely stunning. And I completely see why they chose to really use this zone as the highlight for what they have achieved. Because I remember as Koa came down this road with Chieko, it just was so enchanting. Just look at the dappled shadows on the path, the shrubbery closing in on every side. Once again, I'm not a huge tree person. I'm not really into nature at all. I don't have a huge desire to go out, touch grass, and, be one with nature. But this genuinely is a fantastic place. Now, I believe you can definitely come in here. Then you get this very otherworldly, under pond-like forest where I believe you can do there's some gathering nodes up in here. But generally speaking, I can absolutely see why they decided to come here and show off what they had achieved with their graphics engine updates. Because if you take a little look here, we have all of the shrubbery, all of these really beautiful textures on the ground. We have all of this burnt stuff plus all of the water. It's just really, 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 really well done. I think overall this zone, although it's by no means my favorite in the expansion, it is definitely a zone that tells a story yet again through the landscape. Not everyone's going to notice this kind of story. I'm the type to kind of just take things in and enjoy what I'm seeing, but I'm not particularly analytical all the time about what I'm looking at. But even here, this tells an obvious story, and the MSQ brings all of this up to highlight exactly what we are seeing. And in my humble opinion, I genuinely believe that the music that they chose for this zone is phenomenal. The powerful female voice gives this sense of wildness, majesty, but then there's this kind of soft violin orchestral moments that of course are designed to make being in the zone, you know, more bearable, because you don't want something that's always going hard all the time. And even more interesting is at the beginning, at the end of the loop, there is this odd kind of recording, rewinding type of sound, which has had me thinking for a long time why they chose to put that in there. And my best guess so far is that they chose to kind of highlight the music in this way to maybe perhaps show some of the darker aspects of this zone, because this zone does have some fairly dark secrets in it, as you all may remember. But you guys, let me know in the comment section below why you think this particular zone music has that rewinding sound that happens. Now, obviously, if you know me and my love of cool colors, my favorite part of this zone, hands down, is down by Mamook. This sense of serenity, and then, of course, this music on top of it, which has this wild, jungly feeling, while at the same time having this almost mournful feeling, which of course ties into the story as a whole. What's going on with this forest? What's going on with the Mamook? What's going on with all of the, for lack of a better term, eugenics? Genuinely, really, 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 really beautiful. Now, of course, I just want to pause and say that this forest is probably my favorite because of this nighttime feel. It really brought to mind Raktika. I thought of Raktika almost right away. And then, of course, later on, I saw some of the gear that they linked to this zone, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is basically Raktika, essentially. So we got some Hubigo, we got different people here, just really beautiful mobs. Even it's one of my favorite places to go gather. Yeah. This is just so cool. You can see these massive paving stones with the interlocking edges. The stones are not similar in shape. They have irregularities, but they all lock together. This damp, wet looking feel on them, that's kind of like, you can see it causes the light to bounce off in a much stronger kind of way. The whole textures, the whole almost ominous aura. I wonder is there like a wind sound? Is anyone else hearing a wind sound? Yeah, it's this weird like cave-like sound, like a humming. Yeah, just very, very atmospheric. I think stuff like this always gets 2 thumbs up for me. I'm always a huge fan of this kind of stuff. And also, once again, for me, this whole forest area has such deep significance for a particular character. So this forest to me stood out quite a bit. You know, Aaronville kind of talked it up and was like, oh, there's a blue forest. And I was really pumped with seeing the blue forest come to life. And certainly it was, you know, all that it was claiming to be for me personally. It's just really, really, really beautiful. Yeah. Now, if you haven't fully done your whole bit in here, this area is where you do your tribe quest for gathering. And honestly, so happy. So happy. It genuinely is a really beautiful area, and you want to spend your time here gathering. I've gotten most of the quests done. The mount that you get for it was an instant win for me. It's absolutely gorgeous. Here, I'll switch to it. Let me just come here. Where is this new mount? So this is the branch bearer, and it has such a cool emote. There's a bit of a cooldown on it, but genuinely, like I said, fantastic. But of course I love my cat mount better because I'm obsessed with cats. I currently don't own a cat. I can't really own a cat right now, but perhaps in the future I will. Yeah, but look at the fact that we have a tree being used as a path up to Little Ziggurats. This is so Raktika, is it not? Like, it just feels like Raktika to me. And the music, of course, for the town here, really lovely. Just the same thing, I believe, as Ikbrax. So definitely works for me. And look at the embellishments here. Look at the embellishments on the statuary. Here, I'll take... You can see the difference between the cloth, the metal, the stone. I just think the additions they've made to the textures have really brought this to life, honestly, and have made this feel much more lived in, much more specific to this culture. Oh, and then let me just turn the now, if you are, I don't know, interested in music, you would probably recognize the motif for this pretty quickly. But yeah, basically, this is a rework of a previous soundtrack, and genuinely just really, really pretty, just for this zone, just for the gathering zone. So yeah, it's worth, I think, coming and getting this done. Eventually. Oh, look at all of these fireflies. Wow. So gorgeous. I don't know. I keep saying Raktika. I feel like it's riffing a lot on Raktika. And I've heard from various textbooks and documentaries and things that the rainforest is a very dark place because the canopy is so thick, and this can affect the ground below it. So the fact that they are talking about the difficulty of growing meaningful crops underneath a very thick canopy, and of course in the game they add in some extra additional issues such as the meteorites and the aether affecting the plants. And of course they deal with that in the Gathering tribe quest. But the long and short of it is that I've never been to a rainforest, and I've seen pictures and I've watched some videos and documentaries. This does not look to me like a rainforest proper. Obviously not. But if I want to go to a fantasy rainforest and enjoy something that looks and feels otherworldly and magical, this is the place. It feels like a different place, and it's just so special. And it has all of the vibes that I loved about Raktika, all wrapped up here. Honestly, really, really a beautiful, beautiful place. Now, we're going to just hang around a little bit for the night theme. So we're going to get another hard cut, and then we will move on. I just think it's really, really pretty. Maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it just fits the vibe of this whole place. The serenity, but also the sadness. And honestly, given what we find out from the MSQ here, it just seems really perfect for what this is supposed to be showing us, you know. And overall, yeah, it's just really, really, really pretty. And that makes this, honestly, one of my favorite parts of the zones in this expansion. I think this definitely is up there for me for many, many reasons. But the nighttime in Yaktel, a 10 out of 10 experience, I think. Just really beautiful overall. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's that. Now we're going to go to the land of milk and honey and my favorite thing in the world. Okay, so Shalawani. Now it's a bit of a meme in my tiny community. Everybody knows exactly how I felt about this when I came in here. So, essentially speaking, all right, so we have the zone. It leads directly from Tuliolal. We come out of this gate with Aaronville, and we are introduced to the land of his father, well, his mother, really. And this is the beauteous night music that we can hear if we stroll around at night. Well, I'm gonna be perfectly frank. I hate sand. I hate deserts. I'm not a fan of warm biomes. And I am not a Western gal. I'm not into cowboys. Until Shaluani. I think the music to me is just so beautiful. Night theme, day theme, both are wonderful. when I was playing Eve Echoes, I was introduced to Dark Country by some of the guys, and I'm not into all forms of Dark Country, but this definitely gives me those vibes. Even though, like I said, I'm not hugely into this kind of biome. Give me Garlemald any day. Give me Amarang. Although Amarang actually is another sand biome that I hate sand, but I just love Amarang's music and vibe. But yeah, I think for me, my favorite kinds of biomes in video games are snow biomes for various reasons. But there's something haunting and beautiful and so fascinating, I guess, with Shalawani. I always assumed that Shalawani is probably like Arizona, New Mexico, that, you know, like maybe certain parts of southern Texas or something like that, because you have the scrubland and the cacti. But at the same point in time, there's like this different groups of types of people living together. So the first type of group of people is these folks here. They're living in, I'm even afraid to say that name. Holy moly! But these people are living in Pueblos? I'm so afraid to like get this wrong, so I don't know. Please let me know. But these houses are just so interesting. It kind of gives me a little bit of Garlemald. Sorry, did I say Garlemald? Oh my lord. Ulda, right? Kind of like Goblet-ish. I love the windows. The rounded texture of the stone, like it's not smooth, like clearly this has been cracked and it's old and it's weathered, but it just feels really, really interesting and different. I don't know. I like it. And this town actually doesn't have huge amounts of, if you notice, there's a lack of tails in this region. So this is largely Hure from the looks of it. Somebody's looking for drugs? I don't know. So this particular tiny little town, it doesn't have an aetheryte. It's pretty small. It doesn't have an aetheryte. It does have mild story significance, if I recall correctly. Like maybe we go there for something, I forget, but it's not massive. Okay, so over here we have one such place that does have MSQ significance, Husatawi. I'm going to be butchering all of this. Let's be real here. Now, Husatawi is your average cowboy town. Hello, folks. We got wanted posters. Like, if you just take a look here, right? We have wanted posters. Just paraphernalia. Somebody, probably Muffin Man, getting drunk here. Pictures. Old photos. Food. Just more stuff. Like, just more stuff. More things lying around, making this look like it's really lived in. Peanuts? Almonds? Cashews? I don't know. Yeah. A fish? Giant fish on the wall? It's just a really, really fascinating place. You kind of feel like you're in cowboy land. And honestly, I've never thought in my life that I would ever want to really play a game that has a cowboy vibe in it, but now I'm sold. Is it because of the huge amount of catboys in this town? So I've been told, and I've heard and seen, that there are almost no male Mikotes in Final Fantasy XI. There's like one in the whole thing. One. Count him on one hand, one. So if you play a male Mikote with the new Alliance raid, some of the characters will evince extreme shock at seeing your male Mikote character because you are very rare. It's not the same in Final Fantasy XIV. There are catboys, obviously, including Best Boy, but a lot of them are seekers. I don't know if people have noticed. Maybe it's just me, but it feels like seekers are generally more represented. And I always wanted to know, where are the male keepers? Because the female keepers usually hang outside of Gridania. You see tons of female keepers. And lore-wise, you know that the males are somewhere in the woods. But it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it. They're hunters. They're not going to come into the urban areas. But can't I see them somewhere? Anywhere? So that I can have keeper bros hanging around? Or seeker bros? So this bro here has seeker eyes, but not named like a seeker. So I just wanted to see a town with more representation for male Mikote, and this is where I'm going to get it, obviously. Now there's some hero men in here. In fact, I would just say overall, we just have lots of men. And I'm going to be frank, although I know that some people love their ladies, some of us just want to see our hot boys. Oh, here's Kamaka. Oh my. Even Wuhute is getting the chance to mend his ways. We put him under guard while he pitches in with the work around here. Judging by the sour look he gives us, though, I don't think he's taken well to honest labor. Oh. That's funny. Oh, that's great. Okay, so, as you can see here, this is the jail town. Of course, Nico would never end up behind bars. Oh my lord, I'm so in love with my catboy. Okay, so basically, long story short, coming here was so surprising for a couple reasons. After the first 3 zones being spent with Wuklamat, it was a breath of fresh air to spend time with Aaronville, and then to go around and just see this completely different place that's completely different from Kozama Uka, from Yaktail, and from Urkopacha. And it was just really, really lovely to come out here. Even if it's a land full of dust and brambles, I was more than ready to just have fun out here in this cowboy land. And I'm not gonna lie, like I said, there's not a lot, like, if we're gonna be frank, there's not a lot to look at here. But holy moly, it's still so cool. And I hope that anybody who loves cowboys and westerns and all of that really love and enjoy the vibe that you can see here. We have like a lake up here, which is pretty nice. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a really nice area here. I believe you can go in the lake. I think you can like, yeah, you can go in here, which is nice. Quite. Look at this. There's a lot going on in this lake, actually. We got lots of rock and twisted trees and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, nice. So there's more going on in underneath that lake than usual. We got the entrance to the one dungeon over here. And then, of course, we have what Final Fantasy did with their spin on indigenous people groups. Very pretty, the usual nice music, and more cat boys. Now, are there some female cat people? Yes, but there's a nice range of cat boys, including the even rarer young cat boy Shepeto, which is wild. I've beyond Alphino and Alice and the occasional Miko girls that you see in the events, you don't see a young male Mikote boy hardly ever. Young hero boys, yes. Young elf boys, yes. But young Mikote boys, no. Where are they? Not here. But they are here in Shaloni. Then we got the wonderful locomotive that gave us that awesome scene. So this is the tracks that it runs on. We'll go over there in a little bit. But once again, as you can see, because of the graphical update and the new infrastructure and servers and things that they've been getting, I suppose, question mark, we just have way more details, way more stuff to look at on the screen as we're flying by, as we're running by. It looks way more lived in. It just looks way more realistic as to this being an actual place where people would actually be, in terms of making this look like an up-and-coming railroad yard. My own grandfather on my mother's side, so my maternal grandparent, he was a train man. So this kind of has a little bit of, I don't know, a sense of odd nostalgia, because I would sometimes go with him to ride on the train, and it was just, I love trains. I actually do love trains. I travel by train actually between the north and the south of the province I live in, so it's just a really great little place. We got another town here, I think. Now this town is where Shishinawezi or whatever. So this is yet another town. I think this is where Aaronville's friend is? Question mark. I believe. Yeah, Iate is here. So, friend of his mom's. And if you opened up custom deliveries, this is where Nitowikwe is. And if you remember, Nitowikwe is a reference to, of course, Shadowbringers with her husband, Waulika. So all of this really is just really so cool. It's one of those moments, I think, where everybody wanted me to make the connection. I obviously, the MSQ made sure you made that connection. But yeah, really lovely. Yet another cat-filled town. So nice to see. Maybe I'm just biased toward cat people. That's probably the real deal, actually. Over here, I believe we have the raider camp. I think with the bad cowboys, you can go in here and decimate the bandit population if you so choose. You know, do a duel with a gunslinger. Well, that's crazy, because if you didn't notice, there's not a lot of ambient sound in this world, except when you go by the cerulean towers or specific areas. And here we are at the graves. How very quaint. All in all, although personally I don't find Shalawani to be aesthetically beautiful in terms of the eyes in the slightest. Not in the slightest. The music just fits the desolate nature, particularly at night. And I think that they chose mobs. They chose even only the faintest of ambient sounds to really enforce this sense of complete desolation. And of course, we got over here our wonderful skybox with the dome. Yeah, so ominous. But yeah, this is Shalawani. And if I was going to rank Shalawani against, say, the Blue Forest of Yaktel, technically it should go lower, like I said, because of the visual aesthetics. But in terms of the music and the fact that the MSQ here really picks up, and of course, finally, Catboys, this puts this particular zone really high on my list. And yes, it's not fair. I recognize it's biased. These are my reasons for why I genuinely love this zone, why I listen to this music. We're just gonna wait for the daytime theme, and then we will head off to the next zone. Daytime theme. Once again, this might not be everyone's cup of tea, and I recognize that. It has that kind of garage type band, that grungy sort of feel. Not everyone is into this kind of music, but I would be lying if this didn't give me this vibe of being on the highway in a car, you know, maybe the top down, maybe it's Jeep or I don't know, some kind of a top down car. I don't know. I don't drive a car. I don't know car names, but there's something about this particular piece of music that feels very soulful and very appropriate to this zone. I just like it. It's something that I will come and visit. This is a place I'll come and visit, and this is a piece of music that I know that I enjoy and that I will enjoy for a long time to come. Like I said, it's perhaps not everyone's cup of tea, but it certainly is Checo's cup of tea, shall we say. This is very much a subjective take, I'm going to be frank. But if you're going to make a cowboy zone and you want to make it a bit more rock and roll, I think this is the way to do it, honestly. And this is what makes me really love this zone. It makes me enjoy coming here. And whenever I found out that it was time for me to come here to gather, certain collectibles, you can be assured that I certainly start pumping the volume, because this was just that perfect kind of zone music that I would really enjoy, and maybe you enjoyed it too. Let me know. Okay, so now that we have hung out in Shalawani, let's go to the second last zone, Heritage Found. I don't know about anyone else, but this is a completely different feel. I just remember walking in here and feeling like, oh shit. You look at this desolate, empty wasteland in complete opposition to what we have seen hitherto. Complete opposition to Yaktel and Kozama Uka and Urkopacha and even Shalawani. It's just so empty here. It's like it's been stripped down. Everything has been sucked dry. And there's this music. Now, I am not a fan of hyped up music in a zone being the backing for a zone. But even though I'm not a super fan of Heritage Found, and I certainly wouldn't want to be here for hours on end grinding, I just like the melody line of this particular song. Is it something that I want to listen on repeat, on a loop forever and ever? No. But I do love this song, and I think part of that might be because it's tied to Vanguard, which I loved that dungeon. And so for me, coming here, listening to this music, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is such a different feel to all of the other zones that we've been in. Let's turn off the background music. Let's pump that ambient sound, and yeah, it's a whole different fog right now. But even with the fog, there's lots of thundering because of, the ongoing just what this represents, right? With the lightning aspected ether that's permeated this place. It's so different, and you can see how we have the electrope and this different civilization that has planted itself right into the landscape itself. It had a very Garlean look. There were a lot of people thinking Mac or Garlean, but turns out it's neither. It's basically linked to Solution 9. Holy moly, that scared me a little bit. But yeah, this is Heritage Found. I personally find it to be quite empty and frankly, as it should be empty, because this has gone through the wars, and I'm not expecting there to be massive amounts of greenery and stuff on the screen, because this is intended to be a place that has been desolated and is in the process of being rebuilt. So there's some nifty things here, like the sprinkler systems with these little flat gardens, all of these, different aspects of creating a new life in this desolate wasteland. Some pretty interesting scenes happened here with Sphene. Right away, I had the sense that, something wasn't quite right. But yeah, we got these floating platforms. Not sure what they do. You can't land on them, sadly. These trees, so fascinating. Anyone else fascinated by these donut trees? Of course, we see variations of these later on in the last zone. Back to these Pueblo-like buildings. And if you come down here onto the ground and take a little look-see, you will discover that many of these people are Hyur, just like the other Hyur people who lived in the Pueblos. And there are, I think, maybe some of the Vieira. Yeah, you got some Vieira, some Mikote, but most of them are Hyur. And unlike the other towns and villages that we visited hitherto, you will notice there's just a lack of stuff. Now, it gets you really thinking about the lore reasons for this. Why is this happening? Why is it like that? And so I suppose if you're one of those kinds of people who likes the environment to tell the story, this is another case in point where you can take notice of that and go, wonder why that is. Now, of course, up at the north, we have Solution 9. And then over, if we go over here, we can actually cut through the wall here. This was done during MSQ. And we will be down here. Yeah, here we go. And here we have the opening to my other favorite dungeon. Or I think it's Origenics. Yeah, Origenics. One of my favorite dungeons as well. I love the music in there. So I feel like between Origenics and Vanguard, Heritage Found makes a lot of sense. These are basically all bunny people. Yeah, there's some Hure, but most of these are bunny people. And then we have the rest. We have this facility up here. Will it let us go on top of it? Yeah. So I'm guessing this is where we would go and practice with the striking dummies for testing our DPS, the Sky Sea Stone place. But one of the super cool aspects of this zone, well, should I say, possibly the only super cool aspect of this particular zone, is way over here. We have the remains of another realm plopped right down in the landscape. As far as I can tell, if we judge by the architecture here and the style of the buildings, this is completely unnatural to this land area. This is not cowboy land gone wrong. This is from Sven's world and completely wrecked, completely gone. And the debris and everything, it just reminds me of Garlemald. It's giving me Garlemald. And then of course we got here, let's yeah, look at that. You can see, if you look really carefully, right, you can see that huge swaths of land have been upended and forced upwards. The buildings are still attached onto them. Some buildings have sunk into the fog or water. Looks like water. And then you can see lightning aspected rock or stone there. And then in the distance, you can see here a castle wall. Yeah, it's just so wild. And of course, as we get closer in here, it gets more dangerous because the mobs will start attacking you. But it's just so sad and beautiful at the same time. Like, look at the greenery and the moss and the texture of the rock. Like, obviously it gets pretty janky when you get up close, right? But yeah, it's just so beautiful. And then later on, of course, you're going to see this in the final zone. You'll see this kind of reconstructed as it was before with waterways, and it makes so much more sense later when you see all of that. But yeah, it's just so sad and, well, grim. It's very gothic, really, which I love. This sense of decay, desolation, despair. I don't know. It's doing a lot for me. It's actually underwater. Oh, wow. I love underwater buildings. That's my jam. Yeah, this is just so cool. I know, once again, that staying here, okay, if you have to stay here for any length of time, at some point you start going nutty and you have to take a break and turn the music off and, you know, just get whatever it is that you need to get done. But I'm not gonna lie, coming here and listening to the music can be really fun too, and it really is an experience, especially the first time playing it. It's just so desolate, so different from everything else, so empty, really. Just so different, yeah. And the music, I love the music. And then we have here, yeah, we have such a different aetheryte. So this is where we start seeing a whole new world, so to speak. This aetheryte looks like it's made out of electrope and different types of aether crystals. So modern. Now, some people, they aren't really into the modern stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a sucker for this kind of thing. And honestly, I like the change. I just like a little bit of change. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Yeah, look at those white blocks. Are they white or gray? I don't even know. So cool. So anyhow, this is Heritage Found. Not my favorite zone. I probably would say Yaktel or Urkopacha are my favorite zones for aesthetic purposes, and probably for story and other interest reasons, I would say Shalawani, obviously. Heritage Found is toward the bottom. It's just so desolate. Not a lot to see here visually. Kind of depressing. And the music can, I think, wear on you over time because, I mean, it's just go, go, go the entire time. But on the other hand, there's a lot of storytelling in the environment here, and I do like the more modern form of the music. I genuinely do enjoy that type of music quite a bit. It's just that if it's over and over again, it's kind of like, and here we go, you know. But yeah, this is Heritage Found. We'll hang around for the night theme and then we'll move on. And the night theme, as calm as you might expect. So, you still have a fairly fast beat, and you still have a strong electronic sound. Yeah, it's pretty different from all of the other night themes. So, once again, this might feel still quite extra compared to other night themes. So the night music for this zone isn't much chiller than the day, really. It has less weight to it, I think, but the tempo is still quite high, and you still have that really strong electronic sound, which means, of course, that it is quite energetic compared to a lot of night music. Now, the next zone or area that you would go into with MSQ is Solution 9. So we're going to come in here and just talk a little bit about this zone area. So modern zones like this are a bit hit and miss with most players. I'm going to be frank. I haven't really played a ton of sci-fi games. I've seen some clips of Cyberpunk 2077. I tried out a little bit of Fantasy Star Online. These kinds of games are always fascinating to me because I do love sci-fi and I do love this kind of modern aesthetic. This to me feels much more positive or idealized to a certain degree. It's not as grimy or as gritty as some of the sci-fi dystopian worlds can get. Solution 9 is definitely more poppy, just like its music, and there is a lot to see, and basically just so many little details here and there. There's the GPU that was shown in the trailers. There's a lot going on with this zone. It's full of electrope. We have the stone and the metal and the super nifty, super special aetheryte. And of course, on top of everything else, we have various ways to go about the city. So for example, if we were to go this way, you can see this pad, and this pad basically zaps you up here. So you can go back down and back up if you want. Now, this area, this particular city has some more filled out parts and then some quite empty corners. So to begin with, we have all of these areas, pretty much just placeholder areas for a large part. All of these doors won't open or anything like that. But of course, I think it's over. Is it over here? No. Where is it? Let's see. No, it's maybe. Yeah, it's over there. So I'm gonna just quickly go over to Neon Stain, and here we go. We have our lovely bar, Neon Stein, with the floating furniture, with the bartender. And once again, there is just some small things here and there. It's quite minimal, all things considered. And a little box for getting in to, I guess, do your DJ stuff. But generally speaking, this whole city is quite minimal, and I think they're trying to go for that minimalist aspect. There's also the back room, very important for MSQ. Genolt. Shale. This is probably one of the most packed rooms. music is quite different, much more depressing, dare I say. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things you can just see and look at. It feels very much like a headquarters. The music is pretty cool. It has that kind of lo-fi hip-hoppy sound, which is nice and grungy. A completely different feel from Solution 9, which is more, well, poppy. And then of course, we'll go and take a shortcut up here to so there's the Feral Fandom, but this is close to the Arcadian. So this is the Arcadian area. The Arcadian Attendant. Beautiful waterfalls, light shows. Honestly, it's quite nice. Yeah. This is like Hollywood in the future. Really, really nice. All of this gives this sense of feeling sleek, a feeling all of the fans gathered around. It just gives a sense of a futuristic city that's, that used to have all of this glory, but in more recent times has become enveloped in a lot of drama and uncertainty. Down here in the south, we have cool little shops, and I believe this whole area here, these areas are basically living quarters. And I'm going to be frank, this really reminds me of China. So when I was living in China, we lived, as all people do, in very large buildings that would be gathered together in large sectors. So these would be essentially compounds. We would call them compounds. And you could... Wow. Look at that. So cool. I love that outfit. I want to wear those things. So interesting. I'm pretty sure that certain MSQ stories take place here. Really awesome. Yeah. Pills, food, medicine. Yeah. So, all in all, this reminds me of living in the large compound districts in China, and the sense of living in a highly urban area. It's kind of oddly comforting. I don't know. I just love it. Even in China, they would have these kinds of gardens that you could walk in, usually highly curated parks with places to do exercise and things. So honestly, I'm not saying that China was all glam and had, oh, look at this person touching grass out of desperation, got fleeced apparently. Well, no, that's what you get for betting on sports, I suppose. But yeah, it reminds me a lot of, like, China obviously was more drab than this. This is all glowing and it's very futuristic, but same feeling though, overall. Same feeling. Really, really, really different from everything we have seen in this game hitherto. So unique, so different, so beautiful in its own way. And then over in this section here, we have basically if I recall correctly, we have where the MSQ has been happening. Yeah. And just large open areas, very grand, suitably like, I don't know, important looking. You have, oh, a lookout over here. Okay, well, let's just pick that up while I'm here, shall we? So we'll... All right. Resolution. Located in the government sector of Solution 9, this facility is staffed to resolve matters pertaining to welfare and employment. It's also equipped with infusion stations, machines which dispense souls in exchange for credits. Well, that's fascinating. Sleeping. How long is this gonna take? Yeah. So cool. Honestly. People getting lost in a government building. That's common. There's not a lot in this section. It feels very big and very empty. But I suppose you could get a whole bunch of people congregated on this plaza, overload the servers and see what happens. Could be a fun time. Now down here is where most people go, myself included. So I've been tome grinding a little bit. This is where we all go. And of course, probably my favorite thing about this particular room are these. So I just want to say that whenever I come here and I look at this, I remember the day the tab so very kindly gifted me with a mount that was extremely expensive. And yeah, I'm always struggling with my gil, but thanks to tab I was able to get a wonderful futuristic bike, and yeah, I just really love it. And I believe some of these other vehicles are coming into the game as well. Now I feel like there's a cafe around here somewhere. I feel like I'm missing out. There was a cafe somewhere around in this city. Yeah, here we go. Oh, another lookout. Let's pick that up. Okay. So this says Mosaic. This popular cafe is found in Solution 9's commerce sector. The races of Alexandria are named after stones, and calling the shop Mosaic was an acknowledgement of the colorful work of art that is created when people gather together. How very Canadian. I just love the feeling here. I just feel like I'm in Starbucks. Now, Starbucks has a bit of a reputation, but I personally think it's gorgeous. I would want to take my friend here, sit here with a cup of coffee, and just chat with her. I just think this is so pretty, so beautiful, so I suppose bougie, but you know, it's really pretty. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's cringy, but I think it's really, really pretty. Just really, really pretty. Yeah. So that's Solution 9. Very exciting. Very, very exciting. Like I said, lots of wide open spaces. I feel like you are always running in this area. If I were to compare Solution 9 with Tuliolol, I would say that Tuliolol feels more lived in and more dense. And that's fine, because I think there's lore reasons for why this world is the way it is versus why Tuliolol is the way it is. But I definitely feel the emptiness here more than I would usually. at the same point in time, as I stand here and enjoy the chill music, I have to say that I'm having fun. I love this area, and I always like to come here and just enjoy the music, enjoy, just the whole vibe. I love modern aesthetics. I don't know, I genuinely enjoy cyberpunky futuristic cities, and I love urban spaces. I'm currently not living in an urban space, so maybe that's why I particularly appreciate Solution 9. But yeah. Now the last zone that we're going to go to is going to be the special one, which is way underneath here. So we're going to go there. Now usually I believe you have to go there through question mark Solution 9. But here, yeah, okay, this is going to be great. Okay, so let's talk about this zone. When you first come in, it's full of light and life, and as you go through it, you suck it out, all of the light and life. So it's kind of opposite to what you did in Endwalker, where you were bringing more life into a zone. In this zone, you initially pull all the life from it, all the light, all of the movement, all of the NPCs, and you basically reduce it to this empty gray world that most people would not wish to be there. And when you first come in, you are definitely, hit by the gold color and this thing right here. Holy moly, look at that thing. Is that not like giving Ghost in the Shell, futuristic, cyberpunky? Yeah, it's just so cool. Now, obviously, as time went on, you were making everything basically worse. Let's see if the cutscene for riding it. Let's go down to the Wind's Path. Let's see what happens here. Do we get the riding cutscene? No. Okay, so basically you don't get to see yourself going on the tracks anymore, which is a real shame. Real shame. I would actually be fine with a cutscene for that, because it's not like most people will take those guards anyway. I don't know. So let's go down here. This is near the Laynode Arrow. And one of the interesting things about this zone is that there was a lot of different sections. Because, it's basically a theme park for dead people. So you get to see these beautiful gardens that are so lush with these strange fake tree-like, sculptures and structures. Yeah. Let's listen to some music as well while we're going around. This is nighttime. It's so cool, actually, this holographic whale. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, you actually do this as part of a dungeon. You have to go through and clear out mobs in this zone, and I think that's so interesting and fresh. I like seeing the zone inside of a dungeon and getting to experience it a different way. Of course, we have the trees that we see outside of Solution 9. And then we have one of the nodes that we shut down here. Well, somebody shut it down. I forget who was shutting down what exactly, but very beautiful, very enchanting. And if you are into gardens and all of that stuff, this is definitely This is definitely a beautiful area, chock full of vegetation, small details, just really, 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 really full of these tiny little nooks that you could probably take some great photos in. Of course, I know this set of mountains very well. You would know it too if you have been doing any amount of gathering or collectibles. Then, of course, we got the long trek. I'm gonna trek over to the next section over here. This section does not have an aetheryte. Completely different type of section, different vibe. We have water. Let's check to see, can we dive in it? No diving. No diving. Colosseums. Yeah, so classical. Is it Art Deco? I don't know exactly, but you can see all of these beautiful colonnades and structures, almost Parisian, maybe Venetian. Well, we definitely have gondolas, so that's saying Venice to me. But this is basically, I think, if we look carefully at the tiling on the roofs, this is a simulacrum of what we saw in the wilderness destroyed. This is what we're looking at. Very, very, very sad if you think about it. But honestly, so picturesque in its own way. There's just so many little nooks that you can go and get a photo done in. You know, if I was dating somebody in the game, I would probably take them here at one point to sit with them in a gondola, maybe. And just, can you stand? Yeah, look at that. You could sit in the gondola if you wanted to. Like, wouldn't you want to come and just sit here with someone? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hopeless romantic. Look at all the beautiful lights. Now, of course, let's go across. So we're going to cut kitty corner and we're going to go across up here. This brings us in front of the massive statue, which is just otherworldly, really. Let's see how far up I can go. Not very far up. But yeah, holy moly. So cool. Yeah, it's just so pretty. And of course, we have over here the volcanic mountain. And for various lore reasons, we land down here. And this is basically like the recreation of a lava mountain that must have existed at some period in time. There's this wonderful Colosseum where certain cutscenes take place. And I believe now a fate happens here. A single boss comes out in the middle, if I recall correctly. So really fun. Really, really fun area if you're into lava, if you're into mountains. And then if you go inside, you know, we suddenly are kind of transported back to this medieval time with all of these walls. So medieval, so gothic, really. Yeah, with the masks, the weird masks. So cool. Yeah. It's just such a fascinating set of buildings, with all of their own kind of unique little areas where you could, if you wanted to, go and take photos. I'm I'm sure that not everyone is super into medieval buildings like this. Ew, warm colors. But it certainly is so different from everything else that is on this map, right? So I just enjoy stuff like that. We have these, basically what would be a splash park, I guess, for kids. I don't know, it's just so fun looking. And of course had some of the most interesting cutscenes with Kryl and her parents. There was stuff that went on here that I felt needed a bit more work, but overall I have to say that this zone had a lot of unique sights to see. I got the sense that I was always on the cusp of seeing something fresh, seeing something new. Let's go over here. This is the site for, I think, another. Yeah, I could finish up a quest actually, since I'm in the neighborhood. But yeah, look at Spriggans. We get Spriggans back again. Yes. I kind of want to see like a race car, like a Mario Kart. Like, we should ask Yoshi P if he could put a Mario Kart track in like a world like this, and just, yeah. Or like have limited seating on this merry-go-round, and you talk to an attendant. The attendant would basically be like a check of how many seats are empty, and depending on how many seats are empty, you can either get on, and then maybe like after 2 minutes or 5 minutes, you're forcibly ejected from the ride to give other people a chance to get on. I don't know. It's just a really, really, really cool area. If you're into amusement parks, I think this is a super cool kind of area. What's so interesting is the tiling is starting to come away, and you can see Electrope. Also, could we make this a real ride? So we could just like click on an attendant and it will just plop us in one empty, like same to the other thing, and then all you have to do is just like, you know, wait until the ride comes around. I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much of the programming, but that would be kind of cool, I think. No? Let's listen one last time to this super warm music. It feels kind of like an age gone by. Overall, I think this zone is one of those zones where I feel that there has been some missed opportunities, both narratively and, of course, as a zone itself. I think it would be really great if they could do a few things to just add that little bit of spice to this zone. This zone is already spicy. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's full of so many interesting and different things to see. I'm not complaining about that, but I see it as a missed opportunity, because I think that it would be so fun if you could go on a railroad ride around on this track, or if you could get on this Ferris wheel, or get on the merry-go-round, or, you know, just I don't know, enjoy some of these rides as a player. Surely you could get that in as a programmer, ? And of course, we have over here the inside of the castle, the final hologram point, which you can fly through. It's just very, 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 very old, very, very timey-wimey, very medieval. but at the same point in time, surrounded by all of this tech. It's so different. It's just so strange, I suppose, in its own way. Nostalgic, sad, filled with regrets. Yeah, it makes me think a lot when I come here. That's what I will say. And I'm glad that in more recent patches they returned life to the zone so that you no longer feel depressed when you play it, because holy moly, when I was grinding fates and doing stuff for the relic, coming back here to a dead zone was soul sucking. So I am a personal fan of them returning this zone back to its former glory and just letting us have all of these wonderful, beautiful districts clumped together in a way for us to enjoy all of these different sites. The only thing, like I said, is that I would have liked to have seen maybe some more interactivity within the zone, since this zone is a literal, well, theme park to an extent, right? It is paradise where people are meant to go and enjoy themselves, and it would just be great if maybe the players could do some of those things in the zone. Maybe there's nothing really meaningful about hopping on a Ferris wheel. Maybe not, but I just think it would be so cool. But yeah, this is basically the final point of my journey through Dawntrail zones, and I have to say, overall, that the music and the feeling of all of these zones felt on par for what those zones were attempting to tell us. I felt that many of the zones were very lush and full of objects and things to see. I thought all of the zones were varied. There was no zone that quite looked like another zone, and I think this is on par with most Final Fantasy XIV expansions. I feel like they've always been able to do this. They've always been able to do a great job with showing such different types of zones for the players to see as they went through their MSQ, which is probably harder than we think it is, honestly. While there are some parts of the zones that I think could have, like particularly I'm speaking here of Living Memory, that could have benefited from extra interactivity, I think all of the zones are beautiful and really well done. I hope that my love for these zones and the music is readily apparent to everybody who's been listening in. Now, we've been talking a lot about zones and music, so I do want to say one last thing for the music. There were a couple points in the narrative where the music was used poorly. I'm going to touch on it here, which is the use of the song Smile. Now, Smile isn't my favorite style of music. I'm not super into gospel type songs. I think that kind of a genre is a little cringy, but there are people who enjoy gospel music and that style of singing with the choruses and the happy sounds and all of that. I think my largest beef about the use of Smile was it was used too early. And perhaps some of you might agree with me on this one, because I really feel like it would have been much better for Wuklamat's, placement on the throne. It would have been much better if they just used the background music for that scene. Same thing for preparing the train. They also used Smile there, and I still think that was too early. I really believe that it's better to hold back on using that style of music until the end. where you have the most emphasis. Because if we just got the backing music for the Wuklamat coronation, so to speak, scene and the locomotive scene, that means that when Smile is finally revealed as a full song later on at the end of the whole expansion, it feels much more appropriate, much more hyped, and it fits there when we're all feeling happy and, you know, we've gotten through this whole experience together. Putting Smile so early felt really forced and contrived, and it made the whole coronation scene and then the locomotive scene unnecessarily hyped and kind of weird, frankly. I will say that I did notice this propensity for using music in Stormblood. They have a part where they just start singing, I believe, the Garlean anthem, largely, I believe, to show the kind of aura and the mood and the tone of the Garleans in Stormblood. So to me, that music, although definitely draggy to suddenly have, you know, this full chorus singing essentially what sounds like you know, like an imperial anthem, I suppose. Like, that's what they are, right? It's a choice, but at least with the Stormblood anthem being sung, you understood that it was being used to highlight the power and the regalness and the organization and the imperial nature of the Garleans. Whereas the use of Smile early on in Dawntrail really didn't say anything about Wuklamat, it didn't say anything about Tuliolal, it didn't say anything about the workers in Shalawani. So for me, I feel that the use of Smile so early on was really unnecessary. In fact, as a whole, I think Smile as a song doesn't do much in terms of world building or any extra narrative information. So as such, I think it would have been much better just to stick it on the end, kind of like that song in Phantom Menace that was put at the end. That's where it's probably most appropriate, when we're all having fun and we can burst out into the Smile, and that's probably where Smile would feel most appropriately. Well, that's about it today. I think I've covered basically everything that I wanted to cover. If you guys have any opinions or thoughts on zone and music, please let me know in the comments section below. Let me know which was your favorite zone in Dawntrail and which was your favorite zone music in Dawntrail. And did I miss any specific zone music or other music that really stood out to you? I might do another video separate that talks about some of the narrative focused music, like for example Unforgettable Sorrow, which has been stuck on my playlist ever since I've heard it. If you haven't yet listened to Unforgettable Sorrow, I believe it's a piece of music from Final Fantasy IX, and holy moly, it hit me hard. I love that soundtrack to death. It's one of my favorites. I'm so glad that Soken introduced this old song to me that was composed originally by Nobuo Uematsu. And so I have to say that overall, I love the music, and I'm probably going to talk about the dungeon music when I talk about the dungeons, but essentially, I love the music in Dawntrail. The only issue, like I said before, was Smile. So what do you think? What do you think about the zones? What do you think about the music? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.